Camp whispers and intel, my favorite time of year. What are we hearing? We call in all our favors. We get as much scoop and intel as we possibly can. Let me take you to LSU. Good buzz around Kyron Lacy right now. Now, he's not an unknown commodity. He had 30 catches, over 550 yards, 7 touchdowns last year. But when you got Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas exiting to the NFL, when you're replacing over 2,700 receiving yards and 31 touchdowns last year, you need studs. Kyron Lacy can be that. 6'2", about 215. He's had, albeit a short camp. So far, he's had a really good camp. I think he's locked in. The DBs will be the position to focus on this week because this week's when they put on pads. They've had some interesting rotations. Looking at Sage Ryan, for example, running at the corner position. Not where I thought I'd see him running at LSU a couple of years ago, personally, when he committed. So the DB rotations, that's the focus. The other focus for me is at the running back spot. They feel quietly confident at LSU about running back. Now, they've got monsters on their offensive line. So I want you to just imagine with me week 1 against USC. They're playing in Vegas. It's a Sunday night game. Imagine the LSU running back core is significantly more explosive and dependable than it has been. Their offensive line's a bunch of maulers. It is a matchup nightmare for USC to have that defensive front leaned on. If their secondary, the reason I keep mentioning DB is because USC's shot in that is just to torch LSU secondary. If they're slightly less torchable than they were a year ago, you got a possible matchup advantage that goes to a significant matchup advantage for LSU. At Miami, Sam Brown's a transfer wide receiver there. He is going to be very good. Cam Ward, transfer quarterback, everyone's talking about him, and they should be. Damian Martinez, the transfer running back, everyone's been talking about him from Oregon State. They should be. Sam Brown is a transfer that I've probably had more texts about through the first few days of camp than any of them except Cam Ward, and that's because he's the quarterback. Tyler Barron is an edge player who they are going to count on and who I think will deliver this year, and Simeon Barrow, the defensive tackle. They got a lot of hope and confidence in him as well. The reason I'm mentioning those names is because they're a bunch of transfers. So make no mistake now, the nucleus there is the freshman and sophomore classes, respectively, that Cristobal and his staff have recruited. But I think they may have killed it in the transfer portal, and if they did, they can win the ACC. If they did that, they can be a bona fide playoff contender. If they didn't, then, well, I don't need to tell you what happens if they didn't. If they did, you're going glass half full here. Big things can happen. Sam Brown, transfer receiver. Keep an eye on him. At Alabama, they are very green in the secondary. Alabama lost a ton of proven commodities in their secondary. When I was there in the spring, I sat down with some staffers. A bunch of them mentioned a kid by the name of Zabian Brown. Zabian Brown's a true freshman corner, 5-star corner out of California. He will play this year. He'll be an impact player for them this year. It is not an ideal situation to have to be playing true freshmen anywhere, but especially in the secondary. However, at the bigger programs, they do get freak shows in there every now and then. They had one named Caleb Downs there last year, for example, not to do the comparative analysis thing, but every now and then your Bamas and Georgias and whatnot, they get true freshmen in there where you watch them and you say, that's not a true freshman. Surely that's not a true freshman. Zabian Brown's one of those guys. Good weight room dude too, but really, really good football player. So he's shown out so far. And then Ryan Williams, the 5-star receiver, got a bunch of eyes on him. Smaller in body type, 6 foot, about 165. It doesn't matter any. Devontae Smith came in there one time, probably a little bit smaller than that, and left with a Heisman. So that's okay. But what's happening here is, you remember the names, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, just random 4-star receivers that are like around every corner at Alabama, and you forget about them from time to time. A couple of those guys are going to pop just because of the offense they're in. And because I think they have enough confidence in the pass catchers they have, it's not like they're trying to baptize Ryan Williams by fire. Ultimately, he probably has more raw talent than anyone in that room. He's a very special player. He skipped a grade. He's supposed to be a senior in high school this year, too. So to be asking in real life a kid who should be getting ready for his senior year to be a staple in SEC play is a lot. He'll be able to play this year, but they can ease him in because of the confidence I think they have elsewhere in that pass catching room. So that's how they feel. Is that what they really have? That's the part B to all this. Penn State, not so good news this week, at least on the depth front. So Penn State lost Jamil Lyons and Kavion Keys, an edge guy and a linebacker. They had to dismiss them from the team. It's okay if the rest of their guys remain healthy. What we start to watch for in fall camp, Florida, I'm going to talk about them in a second. You get guys dinged up, and in this case, you have guys who aren't injured, but they're dismissed for the season for off-field related issues. And you go to your preview magazine or you go to your depth chart and you say, oh, that's okay, we've still got, yeah. But what you did do is you erased one line of depth. And it doesn't really matter against West Virginia in week 1, but it may very well matter in week 10 or week 11 because no one escapes a season unscathed from injury. So all of a sudden, I'm looking across the two deep there, defensive line, especially edge and linebacker. Like Tony Rojas is a kid we think will be a big-time player for them this year. We've had guys moving positions. Stay healthy and you're okay. But you got two guys there that were very, very important depth providers that all of a sudden, like Ohio State comes there middle of the season. Well, what if someone else has gotten banged up? And all of a sudden you're trying to stop those 1-2s at running back for them. And you're trying to also, contain, you're trying to set the edge, but you've also got Jeremiah Smith and you got Emeka Egbuka. Could get hard, is the point. So watch the depth situation defensively there. Now, James Franklin sounds really bullish on Drew Aller and this new offensive system they're running. It's not me talking, it's James Franklin talking. Sounds really bullish, talking about him being able to do a lot of things you hadn't seen him do before. I hope so. We'll see. At Nebraska, again, 1 week into camp. So far, so good on Dylan Raiola at quarterback. The one thing that we keep getting mentioned to us with these true freshmen who are going to start, where that's the case, the comms and the helmets this year will have a disproportionately positive impact, or so it's thought, on young guys starting. Like an edge that a young guy has now with the helmet communication system that they would not have previously had. Now, the counter to that is I've had some other coaches tell me, yeah, everyone thinks that's an edge. In reality, what's going to happen is a lot of coordinators are just going to have their quarterback's head swimming. And then it gets cut off 15 seconds prior to snap, and then coverages adjust and fronts move around, and all of a sudden you got a guy who is completely discombobulated, and it actually works detrimentally to a young guy. Don't know, because we haven't seen this. We haven't seen anyone go through this. Jamal Banks, is that wide receiver 1 there? Looks like it. That's a transfer from Wake Forest. We think we can count on defense at Nebraska. Offense has got to get a lot better. I mean, they've got some depth up front defensively, by the way, but Kiana Davis is a true freshman defensive end there, 6'5", 255, 260. Just remember that name. I think we'll be calling that name before too much longer. And at Florida, not great news this week. Montrell Johnson was running back 1 there. Not done for the season, but he went down and had to have a minor knee procedure. He's going to be out a few weeks, probably misses the start of the season. At least that's the word. Now, they didn't panic when they lost Trevor Etienne, the running back that went to Georgia, which I think should be illegal. Transferring to a rival should be illegal. When I'm college football commissioner, it will be. But right now I'm not, and it's not. But he went to Georgia. Now, they didn't panic. And they didn't panic because they got pretty good running back depth. Now it gets tested. Trayon Webb, Jacoby Jackson. It's the same thing with Penn State. Like, my Florida folks said, oh, it's okay. Like, we want to get Johnson back. We'll get him back, but we'll be okay. I'm not saying you don't have other players, but it means something when the one you were going to start all of a sudden isn't there anymore. Now, they got dependable backs. They got dependable backups, but keep an eye on this stuff. There's also no guarantee that's the last time the injury bug bites you, by the way. Some of you hadn't even gotten into a full week of padded practice, Florida included, so keep an eye on that. Also, a lot of our team sites, like Swamp 24/7, Lions 24/7, Bama 24/7, Cody Goodwin giving us a lot of good intel. All of the team sites right now, I think through tomorrow, right, Jesse? Through Monday, you can get 60% off when you sign up, 247sports.com. So I think they should charge more for it personally, but I don't run 247sports.com. But you can get 60% off an already pretty low rate if you sign up through tomorrow. And the reason I mention that is because a lot of that will be found on those various team sites.